Mayor Stein.
Hello, welcome everyone. We're going to call the regular meeting to order. It is now 7 o'clock. Requirement of the Sunshine Law have been met. This meeting was advertised in Burlington County Times on January the 10th, 2022. Electronic notice was given, the NJAC 5:39-1.5. We will now lead with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now have a moment of silence. Roll call.
Committeewoman Berkeley.
Present.
Committeeman Carr.
Present.
Committeeman Silva.
Present.
Mayor Henley.
Present.
Committeewoman Mungo.
We will now start with the presentation. It's going to be the oath of office for our new officers. I, Jack Washington, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, that I will bear true faith and alliance to do the same, and to the governments established in the United States and in this state. Under the authority of the people, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all duties as patrolman according to the best of my ability. So,
Thank you so much.
Mr. Bob,
Thank you so much.
congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I, Sean Malley, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, that I will bear true faith and alliance to do the same, and to the governments established in the United States and in this state, under the authority of the people, that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all duties of patrolman according to the best of my ability, so help me God. Congratulations.
We're going to take a break here in a couple of minutes, but I just want to thank everybody for coming. I mean, this is one of the coolest things that we can do whenever we get a chance to swear in new police officers. And like I told Jack and Sean themselves, as much as it's for them, it's more for the family. So for the family and the friends that come out and see this, see these young men that come up the way they are, you can see the emotion that the parents have and the friends, and it's pretty cool. So we all appreciate you coming here. So before we take a break, I just have the resident here that comes to our meetings, every single meeting that we have. Gary, who just has a small presentation.
Yeah, so to Patrolman Washington, Patrolman Lally out here, and I just want to say thank you very much for your commitment and service to us here in West Hampton. And so just my best wishes and congratulations. So good luck to you and the family.
Way to guarantee yourself a ticket. I like it.
Okay, we're just going to take a small break. If the family wants to go out and grab some pictures, and then we'll restart the meeting in a couple of minutes. Okay?
Guys are gonna. Now I'm going to see it. All right, we're going to continue with the meeting because we have everyone else outside and they want us to continue on. So we'll begin with the presentation for the playground for Spring Meadows.
Mayor and Committee, I just want to present to you, about a year ago, I stood in front of you and gave you an option for the Spring Meadows playground, which came from Ben Schaefer. The numbers came in relatively high, and we wanted to get a second quote just so that we could follow proper purchasing procedures for the state of New Jersey. So we reached out to Liberty Parks and Playground and got a similar diagram of a possible replacement for the Spring Meadows playground. We asked each of the developers to stay within the relative footprint of the current playground that's there so that it can help keep the costs lower, but still replace the aging equipment that now is splintering and in defects. So we have two different quotes. They're both actually state contract quotes, so it is at your decision of who you would like to use, but I will say that these two quotes are very drastically different in cost. Now, these quotes also include providing a basketball hoop for the small court that's on that footprint of the playground, but it will not, these companies will not resurface that. So really what you're going to get is the pad side for the playground, the equipment, and then the equipment for the basketball court, but nothing further than that. I believe it also comes with the mulching that goes down on the pad site around the footprint of each of the playgrounds. So in reaching out for updated quotes, because of course 2022 is all about inflation, Ben Schaefer came in at about $185,000 to replace the Spring Meadows playground. And Liberty Parks and Playgrounds tried to stay within our budget, so they came in at about $109,000. But as I said, these are state contracts, so you actually can choose whichever one you want to go with. But I will state that these funds will have to come from open space funds, and we really don't have a very high budget to accommodate something more than about $130,000. So I just want to present to you, these are the two quotes we received. I will leave it to the committee to deliberate on how you would like to proceed with this. If you'd like me to reach out to other vendors, I can do that as well. If you'd like to consider one of these two options, I will leave this up for the president to come and see it. I can't move this because we don't have votes, so if you would like to come and look at it, you may do so after the meeting. These are the two diagrams that we received from vendors. Does anybody have any questions?
So, if I'm not mistaken, when we talked about this before, like, one of the recommendations came from Rec just because of the safety aspect and the timing that it's been there as a playground?
Yeah. So the equipment is aging. You'll see that, I think a lot of it is that wood, wood composite, or not composite, the wood, it's splintering, it is becoming very, it's in disarray. Some of the metal is rusting, some of the fabric that's on some of these things is kind of becoming untangled. It's aged. It needs to come out. It needs to be replaced. And it would be a good asset for the development to enhance kind of some of the community features that are there. So I think it's worth the investment, but it just depends on what the committee would like to do as far as how far you want to invest in that. Do you want to try to find additional funding to accommodate something that's a little bit more comprehensive, such as this diagram, or do you want to stay with the footprint of what we have and kind of just keep this budgetary and keep what we've got and just upgrade it to this style of equipment?
I mean, in my opinion, obviously we're not voting on it right now, but in my opinion, to stay within the budget is what we, I mean, if it's a new, we're really just trying to replace it, because the other one isn't, it's older, it's not as compliant as it should be, and you got kids playing on there. So I don't know that we need to have the Mercedes-Benz of playgrounds. It's just my opinion, like that we could have a nice, decent playground. I think 185 is probably a bit, in my opinion, again, 105. But I think 185 is probably a bit much. If we can get something from 109, that's a win. Or if we even want to get like a third number to see where it's at, right? I'm not saying it may be less than 189, but if it's in the middle, but we get more, like, then that makes sense. But if we can stay underneath budget, I think you said budget was 130. If we,
It's right around 130, yeah.
right, if we can get 109, that's lower than 130, I think that's a win. But, it's up to everybody else.
Is about the playground equipment about the same number of playground things, or?
So respectively, I know it's hard to kind of see these diagrams, but here is the Liberty Park playground. So it's similar, it's just a smaller scale of what is on this diagram.
Okay.
And then this is the better shaper, and this is obviously a lot more expensive of equipment that we would have.
Okay.
So these are your two options.
And I kind of agree with Sandy, because we have other things that are coming up we have to budget for that are really important. And we can always start with something low and add a piece of equipment in a couple of years if we need it. But if we buy the more expensive stuff now, we can't take it away and save money. So I'd like the ability to expand later and stay within our budget, especially with the fire truck that's coming up.
With the basketball hoop, what are they gonna replace?
It's just the net in the backboard.
Just net back.
Yeah, it's really not, as comprehensive as like an entire court.
Right.
So it's just the equipment, so possibly the pole, I didn't know check the pole, but it's definitely the backboard and the net piece that goes on the court, just not the resurfacing of the court.
Right.
That was-
So like when we get it to schools, what they happen to schools where they tore it out and then put concrete in, it won't be that. It'll be them. I don't even know that they can do that. Because that pole has to be cut. That pole can't be lifted out. And if they cut that pole, they can't put another pole in there. So I'd be interested to know what they're gonna do. Right? Like when they're talking about this, so what I'm saying is that pole comes out and it goes into the ground, right? And it's deep into the ground. So the only way they're able to get it out is to cut that pole, right? And then what happens is they take something and they can dig the rest of it out. But then if they do that, then they gotta put more concrete in there.
Yeah.
So if they're gonna, I wonder what that means. You know what I mean, what they're saying? Like, does that just mean they're gonna take a backboard off and put a backboard on? Because if they're gonna do that, why pay for that when we can get Public Works to do that?
Yeah, can you find out about that?
Any other questions?
I have a question about the mulch. That was one of the issues we had, because like the mulch is about 2 inches under the bench. Is that including like a synthetic mulch that we won't have to be replacing every year? Or is that just a wood mulch?
It's a decomposed EWS.
Wood mulch.
I can find out what that is.
That's wood
I don't
mulch.
know off the top of my head, but-
He knows what it is.
Any chance we could get an up-and-coming warehouse to put funds into this first?
So, not really. The only way you'd be able to get an up-and-coming warehouse to provide funding for any kind of community improvements would be is if they were requesting a pilot deal, that something that's built into that negotiation.
Never hurts to ask.
We can take that for a discussion for another.
Just a different discussion, yes.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
So we're gonna move on. Approval of minutes for July 12th, 2022, regular meeting minutes. Do we have a motion?
Berkeley moves?
Carr seconds.
Roll call?
Berkeley?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Silva?
Abstain.
Mayor Henry?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
We're gonna open the meeting for public comment on agenda items only. Please remember to state your name and address for the record. By the way, Gary, we all thought it was a solid move getting out of every ticket going forward.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if any of the lines work tonight.
Just push it in and it should light up green.
Okay, gotcha.
Gary Barbarian, 138 Winstead. Yeah, so my comments on the agenda items. So first is on number 9, the monthly reports. Comment on the West Hampton Township Police Department report, and then the DPW. The Police Department report, at least in the packet that was the PDF linked to the file uploaded this morning, I think at, 8:39 in the morning. When I read through it, it was actually last month's police report. So just a mistake, I'm guessing.
Yeah, we were a little bit behind. The police department was not able to provide us the report prior to the July meeting, so it went on to this meeting.
I looked at the July 12th PDF file, and it was in there.
Was it?
Yes,
And it was July, not June.
July 12th. And you already voted on that. Because that's the June police report activity.
If you go and look at that link, the PDF, that's what I did, July the 12th, and it did contain the June police report. It's identical.
Okay. They don't vote on the report, so it's just a duplicate.
So when is the July report?
So the reason that August only has one meeting, and there's certain fiscal numbers that I need that I can't get to the following Monday, as strange as it sounds. So the report is almost done, I just have to wait for another, so typically it's always the second meeting of the month.
I only bring it up because it looked like it was duplicated, and I thought, oh, it was maybe just a bad insert into the link, the PDF file. On the Public Works report, and I did check this as well, in the citation, the subject line says August, but he's really talking about July activity. And I went back to check, I said, well, is this a style or a syntax thing? And I just think he just made a mistake. So he really meant it. So I don't know if it needs to be corrected or amended or not. And then my only other comment about that DPW report is the statement in there about leaf collection, what we will resume in the fall. Well, I think Mother Nature's getting ahead of us here. We've got a lot of dry weather, there's a lot of leaves coming down now. So I'm just wondering if one of you might be willing to talk to Public Works and see if they'll move up the schedule at least once prior to the quote official commencement of the fall. So we have a lot of leaf litter everywhere. I've already seen it. I've already raised it once myself. So yeah, that's just my comment about that. I'm going to move on to now I'm moving up to sorry guys. It's item number 11B, the resolution 117-22. So my comment is on that resolution for the emergency appropriation. So the way I read it, we're appropriating $48,500, and as I'm reading through that, to me it looked like, and this is my comment because it's really more of a question, but is that $48,500, is that raised as a deferred charge outside of the existing cap?
Yes.
Okay. And so the division has to approve that, but it looks like they're submitting it for approval. So is the sequence right on that? Okay. And then I guess my other question about that, and I'm no expert in budgets, and maybe you can explain this if you want. My comment is there a reason not to have gone the route of having an emergency notice issued? We have that option, especially if you've got money that you might need to spend. Maybe it's prudent to have the emergency notice issue because we have declared an emergency. So we do have that power to have the emergency notice issue and retain those funds for deployment for other purposes. The way I understand it, I could be completely wrong, just something to think about. My other comment is on item number 11C, the resolution to amend the capital budget. When I read the resolution, it just says new project language. It's very vague. Was it just placeholder language in there? Was there supposed to be the name of a discrete project?
Provided from our auditor.
Okay.
We didn't break that resolution, provided from our auditor.
Right, well, I mean, it's very nondescript. I don't even really know what it says. But that's just me. I'm not an expert. You guys can read it, let me know what you think it says. And again, I guess my question ultimately is, to me, it sounds like that's being added to the cap 22, those funds. So, what line item in the budget is that? That's definitely in the capital expenditure chunk of the budget, right?
So this bond will add to the capital projects that will amend the capital budget, but it doesn't amend the operating budget. Is that what you're questioning?
Well, I mean, that's, okay, I may not be articulating it right. It sounds like it is part of our capital expenditures.
It would
Whatever
be
the,
the capital purchase.
whatever the commitment that we're making in the township, so, okay, that's fine. I was just curious about that. And then, moving on to number 12, it's letter D. The resolution authorizing extension of time for payment of tax bill. I read through that resolution, and I even checked the township website, acknowledging that the taxes are going to be due in September, but the resolution doesn't specifically state the grace period. The township website says we're going to extend the grace period because of the delay. So to me, the language in the resolution is somewhat punitive. It says, you know, you don't pay by the 9th, you're immediately going to accrue interest, etc. I'm just pointing that out because the website says one thing. People may look at that website and say, oh, taxes are due in the 9th, because it's a delay, the grace period will be extended because of the delay. But now we have to pass a resolution that says, well, carrying the effect and enforce the law on the 9th. If you don't have it in by the 9th, you're going to be starting accruing interest. So I just thought maybe it was a mistake. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's a grace.
That's a grace period.
It's the resolution I read that was in the PDF.
I used to pay taxes up here.
That's my comment.
There is a
on
grace
that.
period. They don't charge interest.
I'm just commenting.
No, I was explaining to Nancy like the grace period.
It's like, I don't know why. Maybe tell them to stop.
I know it can't be batteries. We just put batteries in there. We need more batteries. We need another mic. It was like 2 meetings ago we put batteries in there. Do we have any other comments?
Anthony Getz, 109 West Infantry Road. Regarding the fire truck, we're buying brand new.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really say that. I think when the chief was talking, the numbers were higher, so I wasn't sure.
I know we asked about pre-owned that
It came up.
day. You know, we start seeing the numbers, we're like, nothing used?
Christina gets at 109. Am I allowed to comment on this?
Sure.
As having young kids, as I know Mr. Carr does too, a lot of the playgrounds that we go to in the area, even that new beautiful one in Kingsburg by the municipal complex, it has no shade. The slides are hot when you go down it. So I know the one seems to be a lot more than the other. I don't know if you wanted to go with the cheaper version, if there's a way to provide the cover shade. Because the Mount Laurel one at Laurel Acres, I think it has one. And all the kids in the summertime with the hot 100-degree weather beating on the slides, it like burns your skin going down.
That's a good point.
So just something to think about when you're picking which playground. Yeah, they have like these big tent shade covers that are by poles. There was just one recently.
It's a good idea.
But Laurel Acres has a couple like that. The new one in Kingsburg sadly does not, but it's just something to think about with shade. And then at one of the previous meetings, what I had asked about the grant money for one of the warehouses donating. said that was for, it can't be for community outreach, but it can be for community improvements. Would that be a community improvement? Like, is that
This?
included in the?
No, that's not, that's coming from open space.
Okay.
So open space is like where we pull from, we put money in open space every year. And so we're pulling money from open space, because that's what it would fall under, to complete that project.
Okay.
But no, that money that you're speaking about, it hasn't been touched since we helped the school.
Okay.
But I like the shade idea,
Yes.
because I've been a kid and got burned on a slide. It's a fact. Do we have any other comments? With that being said, we're going to close public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Monthly reports, West Hampton Township Police Department report, Department of Public Works, and West Hampton Township Construction Report. Ordinances, 7-2022, a bond ordinance authorizing the acquisition of fire apparatus for the Township of West Hampton, County of Burlington, New Jersey, appropriating the sum of $1.6 million. This is the first reading. Do we have a motion?
Berkeley moves.
The Silver seconds.
Roll call?
Berkeley,
Yes, yes, yes.
Carr,
Yes.
Silva,
Yes.
Mayor Henry.
Yes. Res-
Motion carries 4-0.
Resolution 116-22, payment of vouchers. This resolution approves the payment of bills through 8/9/2022. Do we have a motion?
Carl moves.
The Silver second.
Roll call?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I noticed in the bills that I'm very happy to see that we are moving forward with the master plan. I was concerned that it seems like we've already spent our budget on that, and you know I'm the broken record. I'm
No.
concerned that we have not been up to date. We have not had any input on that. I would have liked to have the planner come and talk to us to see what our goals are. I would hate for the planner to do this, come to us, and we find out that he's added a lot of things we don't want to see, and we have to turn it down, and all that money is wasted. I really think this is something that we do together. I know that the Land Development Board has a committee, a subcommittee, they've met once, but I think we are the elected people, the people have asked to make sure that we do the right thing, and I just think it's wrong that we have not had any communication with the planner, and it seems like he's done all the work already. So I would like to have more information about what's going on going forward.
No worries, but you do understand that we do have a representation on that board, right? So you have two people, I believe it's two people, that are on the Land Development Board, and then we have Udi Carr, who's representing our board.
Right. Are any of you on the subcommittee for this?
That, Udi Carr's on the subcommittee.
Okay. But then I would like to talk to Mr. Carr, and Mr. Carr talk to us to see what direction we as a group would like to go.
I agree, but we've talked to Mr. Carr. I don't mean to put you out there.
You have, but I haven't.
Yeah, so, but when we organized the subcommittee, we were all together, right? It's Udi Carr, it's Dave Guerrero, right? And
Bob Thorpe.
and Bob Thorpe. So there's two people from the Land Development Board, and there's one representation from here, and then we also have, the planner from the Land Development Board. So that's kind of something that we discussed. Now, honestly, I'm sorry if you didn't really know, or you weren't sure, but that's, I would reach out to Odie, or I would talk to Odie, or well, it's going to be tough to talk to the planner because you're not on the board, or talk to Odie, and Odie would be able to discuss it with you, but that's kind of where the situation is, that we do have representation on
I
it.
remember when we first started this, we had said to the planner we would like to have community meetings so the community can come be a part of this, and he said, no problem. And I haven't seen that. So, like I said, I just think the more people involved, instead of getting it done and then coming and asking us to approve it, the better.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Where were we?
No. Roll call.
Oh, roll call.
Berkeley,
Yes.
Carr,
Yes.
Silva,
Yes.
Mayor Henry.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
117-22, resolution for emergency apparatus on purchase of fire apparatus. Resolution for emergency appropriation of purchase of fire apparatus. Do we have a motion?
De Silva make a motion.
Carl, second.
Roll call?
Berkeley.
Yes?
Carr.
Yes.
Silva.
Yes.
Mayor Henry.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
118-22, resolution to amend capital budget. Do we have a motion?
De Silva make a motion.
Berkeley, second.
Roll call?
Mayor, before roll call, can I just clarify for Gary's comment? Resolution 118-22 is resolution to amend the capital budget related to ordinance 7-2022. That's correct, right? So just in case there wasn't a vaguety in the resolution as it's written, just so the whole board knows what they're voting on.
Perfect. Thank you, Bob. Do we have a motion? Or did we get a motion?
We did we do that?
No, we got a second. Roll call?
Berkeley.
Yes?
Carr.
Yes.
Silva.
Yes.
Mayor Henry.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Consent agenda resolutions. Note, consent agenda items are considered to be routine and will be enacted with a single motion. Any items require an expenditure are supported by a certification of availability of funds. Any items requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda. Does anyone have anything they'd like to remove? Do we have a motion?
Berkeley?
Second.
Roll call.
Berkeley.
Yes?
Carr.
Yes.
Silva.
Yes.
Mayor Henry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Motion carries 4-0.
OPM mailbox and correspondent, there is none. We're going to open the meeting for public comment. Please remember to state your name and address for the record.
I think Wendy's gaslighting me with this one. I don't need a battery.
Oh, it can't be bad.
All right, so, it's Gary Brown, 138 Winstead. So, just public comment, I've talked about this before, is, the issue of solicitors/peddlers in our township. I had solicitors come by, they weren't registered with the township. They're obviously business solicitors, they're kind of wearing a uniform, they have sort of company ID lanyards on. They're either for solar or they're trying to sign you up of clean energy, et cetera. So I know I've talked about this before. I don't want anyone not to have a chance to earn a living, but that ordinance is there specifically for a reason, to protect us. So I think we have every right to revisit that ordinance and enforce it when it's appropriate. I'm not going to call the police when they're coming out to my door, because heaven forbid somebody needs police services, right? It's pretty low level stuff. But it would be helpful if we did see folks that look like they were soliciting, just maybe to have an educational conversation with them. I'm not giving you duties to do, I'm just saying they are coming into the neighborhoods, right? Okay. Across from the DSW warehouse, the construction, the new home construction, two issues there. I just noticed that my guess is that these construction vehicles are using the GPS address of the warehouse to get to the construction site, so they don't really know where it is exactly, where to make their turn, either from left or right, depending on which direction they're coming from. So they are not keeping up with speed on the road, number one. I think we can put up with that. But the issue is, I would like maybe for us to think about maybe having the developer put up a sign, maybe a few feet or a couple hundred feet, wherever it's appropriate, say, hey, construction site, 300 feet, take a left, or 300 feet, take a right, just so these truckers know, maybe a little bit safer. And then the other issue is, I noticed with, as we're sort of claiming the fields there, they are generating a lot of construction injected all over the road. And frankly, it's like a Moroccan Scirocco out there. You can barely see in front of your face as you're driving. I don't know if your officers say the same thing. I don't know, can they get away with that? Because usually you see them sort of tamping it down, watering it down, right? I'm just asking. I'm not asking to stop, I just listen to you, right?
No, I hear you. To no use of messing with that.
Terrence Brown, 9 Pine Tree Drive. I'm not going to get this because some people have disabilities of hearing, like me, and we're trying to really stretch ourselves to have hearing. I have a couple comments. First, I think the council is doing a great job in its capacity, but to kind of see the kind of discord with Councilwoman Burton not being aware of how the master plan is going, tells me that the township really is not communicating with all 4 or 5 of its members. I feel like it's disheartening to just see one person knowing all the information. When I think of this form of government, I think that we all work as a team to kind of get the things done. It shouldn't be like one person leading this effort. Kind of way to understand how this township is organized. The second thing is following up on Councilwoman Burton's request. The planner told us the other night in the meeting on record that he was giving direction on his council on what to do. I think previous meetings we had a discussion of comment where we were told that the land development board said this is what they're going to do, and they kind of went that route. So I kind of want some clarity on, who's giving the direction, and what is the actual goal of what the planner is giving. He kind of gave us his side of the land development board, which Council Carlos did. The follow-up alternate, I think there's, warehouses in this area are concerned, but I also think there's other concerns that should be looked at for us, mental health, alcohol outlets, because when you look at this township zoning, it's kind of pretty wide open. People can, find this place to submit them, and really, if we had evaluated, this township moving forward in the next future, you can find, somebody putting a meal recovery house in Spring Meadow, and then you have community really in operation, because it's open. So, I kind of want to look at, not saying that, because I'm a big public person, but, looking at all those different concepts, alcohol outlets, and novelty stores, because, we got a bunch of warehouses, what's the advertising future, maybe you have trucks, just people find ways for business to come into our centers and to offer what those warehouses or other type of housing arrangements that may be put in place, they kind of build on. So I'm really concerned about the full master plan, not just master plan kind of, stay over the eyes over the community like that, which that's what it seems like it's a quick fix, just to touch the community line, because the planner himself said on the record that he has other suggestions or ideas that he would actually like to get on going forward, but he hasn't been given that opportunity, which that's what I understood from him. So I would actually like to see what Councilor said, what a community meeting where he can actually come and make us aware of different policies and different things like that, So, I've come out of Baltimore 13 years and I saw, what, businesses, how they can partner with communities like this, which, have a lot of discord amongst each other to kind of build off of that property. And it looks like, hoping that, West Hampton doesn't become that type of thing. I see now, there's new officers getting hired, but I think that's a great thing because she doesn't find it's, improving. Crime is increasing. I stayed here in Woods, and now having to pick up, beer cans, been there, over a year now. And first 4 months, never saw a beer can on public road, never. Now, that beer can being going out, it's like, beer bottle, on the park and stuff like that. It's increasing. Where is this crime coming from? We don't know, but, what we see is that there are vacant buildings that are unoccupied, and people are making this a harbor for, to do crime, and, hard to do illegal activity. So I think that there is a need for a full evaluation, look at the master plan, and, that's my point. Thank you, please.
Anthony Debs, 109 West Maple Tree Road. First, the calendar on the website. I don't know why it's there. There's nothing operated in it. Doesn't really make sense to me when we're advertising in January 10th all the meeting information for committee, land development, and stuff like that, that it can't be populated into the calendar. It's painful looking for agendas, trying to figure out dates and stuff like that, when there's a calendar right on the page, but nothing populated with it. Also, National Night Out, it was good to see it. I don't know who arranges it or how. I remember a couple years ago, we had a big event that was at the county complex. This year it was spread out. We went to Torrensfield and there were just things set up. The fire truck was there for maybe 15 minutes and then for a wall. My son had a good time dunking photo tops. But just wondering how we went from the big event to the scattered piecemeal setup. That's what I think. Thank you.
Christina Getz, 109 West Maple Tree Drive. I was looking for some clarification on the process. I've been to a couple meetings and I get some information, but I'm looking for details of how the process happens with the zoning. So from my understanding is, Chris, the planner on the land board, got permission from the council here to re-look at the industrial zoning. So now there's this subcommittee, 3 people, including Mr. Carr, looking at it. So between those 3 people and Chris, how do they decide? When does the community get to input on any of this? And if we do, it would be, appreciated. How does the process work? Do they decide this, and then you guys vote on it, or is there going to be what Terrence talked about going back and forth and maybe open discussion talking about it? And then, how long will it be before they decide what it is, before you guys vote in it until it's in place? I just don't know the exact details, and it's never discussed. And then another thing I want to comment about is for these meetings, when you look online and you get the agenda, all the information according to the agenda is there. So for the land board, I have to email the secretary multiple times a month to get all the information from her individually. There's nothing posted a full agenda? No, there's no documents. It's been this way for a year, where we either have to pay an attorney to do an Oprah request and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or thousands of dollars, or I ended up doing it myself to save money. I just feel that it should be available with the agenda online. It shouldn't be, back and forth constantly. If somebody, the Dunkin' Donuts, the one that went up, or the warehouse, I feel like all the documents should be included and available to everybody online. You shouldn't have to keep going back and forth and requesting it. It's very expensive for her and for the people that want the information.
So, respective to the documents that you're requesting, typically with these meetings, you're not going to see layouts or plans or things like that. It's really going to be a resolution and any applicable backup to that resolution. So, if you're requesting wouldn't be put in a packet. So is that the type of information you're looking for?
Well,
Plans and documents of that nature?
So, yes, it's like all the plans and the documents regarding what the landlord, like what they're going to hear.
Yeah, that wouldn't be in the agenda packet. That wouldn't be information that would be in a packet. So that would have to be requested outside of the agenda packet. And anybody can fill out an over request. It's completely free. You don't have to go through legal advice to get that. Just go on the website, fill out the over request as much information as you can. Be very specific to what you're looking for, and we can provide that to you. That is the process actually of obtaining government documents.
Okay, so the landlord.
Yeah, for anything. If you see any of the information in a agenda packet, it's really what's applicable to whatever resolution or ordinance or anything to be passed at that meeting. If there's a bigger piece of information, like a plan or a detailed outline of something, it's typically not shared within the agenda packet. You can always request these documents if you want to see something further. Give the clerk's office a call, just explain what you're looking for. We'll say, oh yeah, we have that. Go ahead and fill out the over request. This is what you're looking for. Make sure you put it in detail and we can provide that to you.
Okay.
Working matters emails, fill it out with the request.
Oh, yeah.
What's happened to my email?
I have tried and tried it. You must not.
Absolutely not. Remember I went home and I checked? I don't have an email from you.
So when you go to the township website, it says contact Mayor Henley.
Right.
And it's a hyperlink, and it brings you to put your name and put your.
So can we check that? Because let me tell you, I get about 40 emails a week. So I'm checking the emails. And when I went home, you told me, I looked up the email to make sure, but I see every email. I didn't have an email from you.
Nobody else can contact you.
But people have contacted me. That's what I don't understand. Like, I've gotten contacted from residents. I got contacted about the basketball courts when they needed to be done. Like, I got contacted about, I've called residents back. We said this 4 weeks ago. It's got to be a better way.
But that's because they use shenley@westhampton.com instead of going through the webpage
Yeah.
that says contact.
So they're using, so where are they getting that?
But
Where they
everyone
get-
knows it's your first initial last name at westhampton.com. That's the email.
So the hyperlink doesn't take it there.
That's
It's just
right.
actually have to type the email in.
Right.
Right. So I guess the people who are getting the email, they're typing it in and sending it.
Right.
But no, I did look for it. Not that there's not an answer period, but I did look and I did try. So I just didn't. I'm getting emails from people, so that makes me think that I'm getting them.
Someone must not see it. That's the problem. Where there's a filter,
Believe me, you look at that email, there's no filter. Everything comes through there hot and heavy. I'm sorry, man.
Kirsten York Jones, 120 West Maple Tree Drive. I can spell my name, but most of you probably can't spell it. I'd like to go back to this timing and this logistics of the land board meeting. So the land board doesn't put out their agendas in advance. It usually comes out a day or 2 days before. So there's a niche from a topic that I'm extremely passionate about. But if there's a topic that I didn't know was going to be on the agenda, how do I have time to request documents to review them when they're not publishing anything in advance? And everything is a presentation with a final vote, usually on that day. So you open it to the public, and all you do is get to hear whatever they wanted to paint in that 30 minutes of presentation. Yet, as an educated taxpayer, I don't have an opportunity to look at things myself and make a decision and have questions that I might want to ask. So, just again, logistics and how that works. And then also related to the land board, last week that the meeting was online? The land board specifically said we need to come to this meeting to understand what is happening with the master plan. It's obvious it's not a full master plan. The master plan has not been done in years. It's way past due. When the zoning laws were put into place, no one could have ever imagined where we would be living and what we're doing. But as a result, we essentially have no real business here. We have no downtown. We have no restaurants. Now, I do like Dunkin' Donuts a lot, but when I think about going out, Dunkin' Donuts isn't where I really want my husband to take me for dinner. We have no opportunities, and if we could think outside the box, you have all of this land. You have the Burlington County Farmers Market. That place is packed every weekend. Farms, you have craft breweries, wineries, food trucks.
You have people who don't want to invest in physical capital, but you have an opportunity to bring people in, make West Hampton a hub and a destination. The warehouse is like it because of its location, but why don't you think that other people in surrounding communities would like it just as much? Take advantage of what you have and put a plan and start thinking outside the box to think about what do we need in 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now. Because people don't want to get up and move unless you want a whole different group of people to come and live in the township. But if you can tell me again, how, again, when the land development agenda comes out a couple days before, does the community efficiently get the information so they can be active participants?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ryan Bird, 104 Iowa Road. Just ongoing with the warehouses and zoning, a lot of people in the township have obviously participated on land board development meetings and calls. I mean, I look at the head counts on the Zoom meetings, and it's typically over 70 people that are participating on those calls. That's statistically very relevant, and all those people are pretty much negative against those things. For a population of 8,000 in West Hampton, and this has been going on for more than a year and a half. And we're still only at the stage of possibly rezoning, and there seems to be this endless pushing back of timelines. And so, are there deadlines set? You never get those answers as to what's the objective. When is there going to be a deadline set to get goals met and efficiently done? It's been a year and a half that this has been going on for just one place. There are many other people unhappy about what in West Hampton that we see all over the place that are already unhappy with current warehouses. So it's been even longer than a year and a half than just the Woodlane Logistics project. So it's not like this is new information to anyone. And I appreciate the war that goes on, it seems like, at the land board development meetings and what those people have to deal with from the public. But, you know, the comments are made that government's always behind and not keeping up. But this has been going on for more than a year and a half. And this is 2 years, 3 years that some of these warehouse projects have been going on. And only now it seems like we're finally getting there. And I don't understand why it's taking this long and we still can't get deadlines or get some kind of objective heard from the committee or from the land board. All I do is go to meetings and try to participate, and I get they do it, and then I get they do it, and then I get they do it, and they do it. And it just seems like for people that are on the board and in this committee, I don't know how you can point the finger both ways. It doesn't make any sense, especially when you participate in both. So those are my comments. I'd just like to understand if there is a deadline and when the deadline is going to occur.
You have any other comments? With that being said, we're going to close for public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Dates to remember. Next scheduled meeting will be September the 6th at 7 p.m. Red Cross Blood Drive is September the 6th from 9 to 2 at the West Hampton Recreation Center. We're going to go with the committee liaison report and comments. Do we have any comments from the committee members?
I want to congratulate the two new officers. It'll be definitely a good asset to our already great police department. Thank you for the residents who came out. Thank you for all your comments that you made and your concerns. That's all I have.
Mr. Mayor,
I agree with that. I have some good news. I put out a survey to the senior citizens to see if they felt comfortable coming back with COVID, and 40 people answered. We had about 30 people who said they want to get back and have senior activities, and we had about 27 people who were interested in bi-monthly meetings. So I'm going to talk to Todd, and we're going to start that again. It's been a long time, and the seniors really do want to get together and have some activities and get out of the house, so I was happy about that. I totally agree with all of you. Obviously, you know about the master plan. I'm just throwing this out there, Wendy, Mayor, if maybe next meeting, we could, because, let me go back, at Land Development Board, public comment is not like this. There's no real give and take. You say what you want to say and you sit down. If we could have at the next meeting a time where we could say to the public, we're going to be discussing the master plan, and we ask Chris to come and give a little background of what's going on in his timeline, and, how we're doing it, and anything that they've come up with, and the people can have some opportunity to ask questions, and he can answer them. I think it would go far with the community. It would go far with me, and I think that you would probably have a lot of people come out and just be able to feel like they have something going in, but that's up to you to decide whether you want to do that. Thank you. And, the National Night Out was wonderful. I would like to thank all the people that came to my little town, and it was great. Good job, please. Thank you.
Mayor? Would you like, I can give just a very broad overview of the process of the master plan, just to clear up maybe some confusion as to the timing of everything, if you'd like.
You certainly can. I think Odie had some comments as well, but whatever one wants to go first.
Wait, feel free to put that out.
I'm sorry. So this is going to be a very general overview of the process. The master plan itself is a product of the Land Development Board. It's not of the committee, of the governing body. So right now it's being drafted by the planner with input from the subcommittee. The Land Development Board will consider the amendments to the master plan and are required to give notice and have it available for public review prior to it. I don't know off the top of my head, but generally those types of notices are at least 10 days. There'll be a public hearing before the Land Development Board where anyone can come and make comments, and then the Land Development Board, either at that meeting or a subsequent meeting, will adopt the master plan, can incorporate comments of the public into that master plan. Once the master plan is adopted, it is then sent to the committee, and the committee will consider amendments to the zoning ordinance. Generally speaking, there are two ordinances that would be adopted. One would be a amendment to the zoning map, and the second would be specific amendments to the zoning ordinances, like the industrial zone in this case. That would have a introduction, so it would be heard like the bond ordinance today. After that, it is sent back to the Land Development Board for the Land Development Board to consider whether it's consistent with the amendments to the master plan. They will pass a resolution and then send it back for a second reading to the committee. At the second reading of the ordinance, there's also a public hearing, and at that time or any time in between, the community can make comments on the ordinance. The second reading, the committee, like any other ordinance, can either adopt it as it's written. If there are non-substantive changes that come up in public comment, those can be made at that time and adopted. If there's substantive differences through committee comments or the community comments, then it has to go for another reading. It's then published again and would be operative usually 20 days after publication. So Land Development Board meets once a month. That process, once it starts, you're looking at 2 to 3 months. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry for hijacking the meeting.
No, you can answer the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine.
Councilman Berkeley's commission, you're going to develop this, so the process, that doesn't sound easy.
A majority of the work done by the planner is up front.
The majority is what I could not understand.
A majority of the work that's done by the planner is up front in the research and the drafting. So I can't speak for Chris as far as what work he has and how far along he is in it, but I think he is fairly far along in the process. unless there are major changes to what he's done already, a majority of his budget is already, the work has already been done on.
And that's too late for input. And also, the problem with that is that's great
No,
if they
it's-
can, but we're not allowed to go to the Land Development Board and make comments
But that's, the ordinances when they come back to you, that's the opportunity for the community
after everything
to
is
implement the
done.
master plan.
After everything is done.
And that's just the differences in the roles. And as far as the majority of the work that is done by the planner is the research that goes into what are the major arteries of the town, what are the demographics of the town, what are the current traffic, understanding what the zoning is now, when was it zoned, what's the township growth, what changes have been done over time, what kind of variances have been adopted since the last review of the master plan. It's all of that research, which is not reliant on public comment, that is a bulk of what the planner will do in developing a framework for the master plan.
So just based on my past experiences with warehouses, are you going to be mailing every resident of West Hampton a certified letter for notice, or are we going to use a newspaper that I don't know too many people under 50 years old that subscribe to a newspaper anymore, or just read newspapers? And then how does all the county roads in our town play into the master plan? Because that is one of the biggest issues right now surrounding a lot of this warehouse stuff, is there's this whole game between the town and the county, and anytime any of us comment on the roads, they're county roads, but I'm pretty certain that our first responders respond to all the accidents on the county roads and help people when they're time of need. So this is very strange how, like, I've learned more about towns and roads and everything that I care to know in my whole life.
Yeah.
So I think when it's a county road, and you can interject, the county is the one who has to make those adjustments, like the town isn't allowed to make those adjustments. So eventually, what will probably happen is, however things go, and we're talking about the warehouse, I'll be upfront with that. Like, with the warehouse, whatever happens with that, then it'll go to the county, and the county will handle it, the other part of it from there. So that's probably where the discourse is, like, as far as I'm talking about a county road versus what we can do with that, and what we can do with the property of West Hampton, which is a bit tricky, I understand that. But the county controls that part of it, and the county has their own land development board that would then step in.
What about notice in the newspaper? I don't know if we do show of hands on who subscribes to the newspaper still. Like, that's a formal way to notify the community if you actually want the community to participate.
The notice in the paper is required by statute, and I... True. Yeah, and I don't, I would say I don't know specifically what the master plan notice requirements, and I apologize for not knowing that off the top of my head, but there have been amendments to notice requirements especially through COVID, that require publication on the website. The state of New Jersey as a whole for notice requirements has been increasing publication through the website, but I don't know if that specifically applies to the master planning process. There's very specific notice requirement. I do have to say that the master planning process does not include personal notice, so unlike a land use variance, which would have the 200-foot, any resident within 200 foot of the property would get specific personal notice, that does not apply to master plan. So you're not getting a certified letter in the mail saying that the master plan is being reviewed or implemented. But I would say, look, watch the website. That would be the most likely place to see it.
So that's something.
Okay, so, got some things to answer. Mr. Barbera, I understand. I had solicitors come to my house yesterday evening, very pushy. I'm also not going to call the police, but I also know that they're enforcing it, because when I was knocking on doors last year, I've also had solicitors come to my home last night recently, and very pushy. But I also know the police are enforcing it. They stopped me when I was just trying to say hello to neighbors, trying to enforce it. So I think they're actively doing as best they can, less our phone calls to report these people. And I guess best practice for these people that are building these homes is to have a street sweeper on site to clean up after the fact. But Mr. Brown, I'm sorry about our microphone, sir. But to answer a lot of people's questions, like Mr. Wright did, we met with the planner. The subcommittee met with the planner about 5 to 6 weeks ago. He gathered input from Mr. Thorpe, Mr. Guerrero, and I. And he went into his job, and we are due to meet again Thursday at 1 o'clock, okay? Well, there's nothing concrete now, but I can tell you that Mr. Dockney is looking into refining a lot. His scope was limited to the industrial zones, and he's looking to update that as best he can. New Jersey's Division on Planning Advocacy released something 2 days ago about dealing with the warehouses. Based on, of course it has no teeth, I understand. It is a guideline from the state though, and based on what I've seen in the 10, 20 emails we're exchanging every day between the subcommittee, Chris is trying to follow this as best he can. Mr. Getz, I agree. I love the National Night Out. To answer your question, I know the chief said that, and I don't mean to speak for you, chief, is that his intent was to saturate the communities as best he could and try to get in touch with as many people. So, okay. And Ms. Getz and Ms. Bajork-Jones. I also understand the frustration, and I'm not defending it, but your frustration with this agenda problem with the Land Development Board, but us on the Land Development Board, we're also getting an updated agenda a day before. Mr. Thorpe, Mr. Guerrero were also very vocal at the last meeting, the meeting before last, about us receiving these and sticking to these deadlines. But I think the noticing requirement for some of these people, as long as they meet the noticing requirement and they demonstrate that to us 10 days, we can change the, not we, but the agenda can be changed at that last second because they met the noticing requirement. Okay, I hope I answered everyone's questions. Sorry.
You made me feel like I should write more.
I mean, if you're in agreement that the agenda shouldn't be changed at such a last minute, why not lengthen the notice requirement to resolve that issue?
Again, that's a statutory
Right.
thing, the noticing
You
requirement.
can't go above and beyond that?
I don't believe so, sir.
Legally.
No, if we're preempted by the municipal land use law. You can't have an ordinance that requires greater notice than that. It would be unenforceable.
I'd say there's a bill on the floor, I think it had second reading, where they're trying to extend that from 10 days to 35 days. It's S3866. That was, the financial report was issued June 1st last year, and that's where it's at right now. I'm sorry, one more thing, Mr. Mayor.
That's what, I don't really have to, you guys stole the show.
Mr. Byrd, to answer your question, there's no deadline, but we are working as fast as we can to make it happen. Again, people are responding to emails on vacation, they're consuming this data and doing their best. Thank you, sir. I apologize.
Do you have something about like the crime? I know, was it Mr. Brown was saying something about the crime in the area or something picking up?
I mean, I'm unaware of some of the things Mr. Brown brought up, but obviously we'll take a look at it. I'm unaware of that.
That's convenient and hiring also because of crime. When people got all the burglaries, people going over to the happening, some of the communities here, so it's convenient that, the hiring officer.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought we were talking, I wanted to make sure that you were getting your question answered from him. Just my 2 cents. First of all, I think that it's great that everyone up here is involved to be able to answer questions and really care about, everything that's going on in town, as I do. Like, I care about the fact that you guys care. Now, obviously, there's some different moving parts for us. So my understanding is, and Bob, I think you touched on this, like the Land Development Board will recommend to us, but we're inevitably paying for it. So we actually vote on it, and then that's why it goes back to them, and then it comes back to us, which I understand is a lot of back and forth, but that's kind of what that process looks like from my shoes, right, from my point of view. Like, they can recommend not being, the Land Development Board will probably have a wider range of, what, they understand what we would need, and I think that Committeewoman Berkeley, if I'm not mistaken, at one time was talking about the industrial part as being a focal point of what we wanted to try to straighten out and fix. But again, that comes as a recommendation for, our planner. Now, to answer your question, I think that, even the conversation between me and Committeewoman Berkeley is what the government is all about, right? Like, we don't have to agree, but if everybody sat up here and agreed, then we couldn't get anything moved forward. There was a point, right, if I'm not mistaken, that I said something, and Committeewoman Berkeley was like, I agree with Mayor Henley that we should go XYZ, XYZ. And then we talked about this, and she's like, well, I don't agree with that. And that's fine, right? But understand this, like, we have done subcommittees before, and I think if there's any frustration about it, it's just a frustration that I didn't talk to Odie Carr about what was going on over there. I talked to Robert Thorpe, right? And in this position here where we're at, some of it is going to be proactive versus reactive. Nobody's going to come to me. I got to go to them, because sometimes I might bump into you guys in the middle of town or anything, right? I bumped into you, Gary, and I need to have some answers at my fingertips, because you never know when it's going to happen. So it was about, that conversation for me was about being more proactive, because we've had different subcommittees where maybe someone else is on there, right? And then you got to call over there to say, hey, listen, what's going on with this situation? It's not necessarily them calling me. As Odie would tell you, like Odie just gave a bunch of different explanations that I'm not in on those meetings, but as a committee member, I want to call to say, hey, listen, what's going on? And I don't always want it to come from Odie Carr, because Odie Carr might have a different perspective than Bob Thorpe or even Dave Guerrero. So I think that the due diligence is to speak to all the people that are involved in that room when, you really want to push the agenda forward, whatever your agenda may be, to help the residents and to be armed with any information that you may need in the future to understand what's going on. So I think that was the conversation, but I think that she would say I have no malice, or she has no malice in not agreeing. Like, that's what our government is about, and that's kind of how we continue to push things forward, by bringing up different points and pushing the agendas to what is the residents in the cluster that we talk about. And so to continue that, I think that just as an idea, just as an FYI, right? Like, I know that we talked about the fire department, like when Craig came here and he explained everything, and it was very passionate, right? And so then everybody's like, they need this stuff, give them what they want. So on National Night Out, we had a chance to sit down and talk to some residents, and I actually spent time with residents after National Night Out. And I was giving them that situation. I was like, yeah, like, you guys want to come to meetings. Let me ask you a question. I said, the fire department needs this, and this, right? And it's going to cost about this. So the residents that are there are like, give it to them. They're like, no, we need to know, why do we need a ladder truck? How much is a ladder truck? What are a bunch of questions that they weren't really here, right? But everybody who was here is like, give it to them. So I think that the other thing that everyone wants to pay attention to is that this committee gets pulled in a lot of different ways. Not just from the people who are here, but from the people we bump into town, and then we start giving them information, start telling them things, hopefully to bring them in to be more involved so that everyone can see. But we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing for everybody. So sometimes it may look like that you're not getting the attention you may so call for, but it's not that. It's just that I can tell you that we get pulled in a bunch of different ways whenever we talk to residents, because everyone has their own idea of what they want. Like, even the people here now, like Mr. Brown has one idea, right? And then you guys have another idea, and then you guys come together on, obviously, the warehouse thing, right? But the room's just that way. But I think that goes to show, like, everyone, you know, it's really a mixed bag, which is a good thing for our community. But you also have to remember that everybody up here cares about the community, and everybody up here is a really, really, really good team member. Everyone has their pride points, and I would say Nancy's pride point is that she really, really, really cares about West Hampton. Make sense? I hope it does.
So how can we get more residents? I feel like it's only every week the same people here all the time. Can we like order like 10 pizzas, a little treat, and like have it in the lobby and try and get people to come?
Pepperoni. Make sure we get pepperoni. But, no, I think that, you know, it's funny because I think that when there's a hot button, sorry, buddy. Well, I think that when there's a hot button, no, Tony's actually helping his girlfriend move, and I promised him, I was like, it's only going to be like 15 minutes. But now I got to go help, thanks, because I told him I could help. That's what we laughed about when you looked up here. He was like, you know what you're doing, right? But I think that, you know, when it hits somebody's hot button, so I reached out to an old committee member, not old in age, because I'm 49, I heard the 50 comment, but I reached out to a committee member from the past, and I said, it's funny because, and I live in Spring Meadows, I said, when the warehouse was going on for Spring Meadows, like, was it this much pushback? Like, because there's a lot of pushback with the Irish Woods thing, and I know everyone's trying to do what they can, you know what I mean, to kind of help the residents out, and they were like, are you crazy? It was major pushback for that warehouse. I had no idea. You know what I mean? So I think that it's really like, they said that, you know, Spring Meadows residents were in here all the time about that warehouse. I have no idea. So I'm saying, like, it really depends on what the hot button is, where it touches that community, and then those people coming in to express their discord, and then the people knowing that they can do that. Because some people don't even know. They're like, wait a minute, you guys have a meeting on Tuesdays and I can come in? So it's a part of the education part as well, which we are trying to address with when we send out our newsletter. And we also have what's the phone thing that I get messages from now all the time? Nexel. So as a committee, we have put things in place to try to help engage the community. And if I'm not mistaken, even with the National Night Out, one of the things why it was spread out is because of COVID. So they started that last year and started spreading it out, and because things have been kicking up a little bit, they try to keep it that way before we go back to the big part of it, but I think that that's a part as well.
I think a lot of people too, from going to these games in the past, I just started coming to games tonight. In the past, way in the past, people didn't feel like they were welcome. Now it seems like you are, but in the past, Nancy, we're going way back in the other era, people did not feel welcome. They were just shut up, they were just, yes, it was bad.
I wasn't raised like that. I'm not allowed to tell people to shut up. Well, I think it's comforting that you feel welcome. I think that that's what we look for, not only as a group, but even, you know, when you're talking about our administrator, the people who work in the building, our solicitor, our police, our fire. Like, we want you guys to come in. We also don't want to twist people's arm for something they don't want to do either. But I'm not saying that I agree with everything, because I don't, but that's not really my job to do that. Like, my job is to listen and bring back for what you guys say, right? And I think that as a group, we do a nice job with that, right? So we don't always agree, and we've all talked out in the lobby before, and I'm like, I don't agree with that. But I think it's to be transparent, right? Like, to say, I don't agree, but I understand what you're saying, and maybe we do this, or maybe that works out, et cetera, et cetera. So I would like to tell you that I think that most people would say, even if we don't always agree, that they're welcome and will be treated. Maybe we can get some water up there. So. Pizza's expensive. We got a playground to play for. We got a playground to play for. I have no issue.
We encourage residents to come out to the meetings all the time.
And buy pizza.
Pepperoni pizza.
You like pepperoni too?
But invite your neighbors. The more people come out, the more interaction we have, the more information they get that actual correct information and not listening to,
Right.
social media is a big part of it, and, you can fall victim to that. And with you guys being here, you guys are able to actually see what's going on and, ask us questions. So, tell your neighbors to come out.
And you know what, a big thing for this group that I'll say as well, I mean, I didn't mean to jump in, but just something that brought me back. There was a time that residents would come in here and talk, and they were on a three-minute limit. I don't think anybody has heard anybody put anyone on a limit. Like, you guys have surpassed 3 minutes millions of times, and no one has said one single thing to make sure that you get heard out.
It also says we shouldn't be doing this, but.
That's another thing, too.
I actually thought more people would be here tonight seeing the fire truck on the agenda with the hour now, and we didn't live here for the history of the previous purpose of the fire truck, but reading the news articles and reading that stuff, I figured more people would be here.
He said a whole bunch of people are going to come. I said, watch, no one's going to show up except for us. It was great.
You guys must have a group text. Listen, but the thing is with the fire truck is we want to make sure that we get it right. And I think that what's important when we talk about our professionals that are here today, and we talking about the administrative staff in the building, Craig knows that he's got to get it right. And I trust him to know what we need and to get it right. So, obviously there was horror stories about the last fire truck. I mean, chances are, can you mess up 2 fire trucks? So.
Yeah.
Thing that, speaking to numerous residents, throughout West Hampton, that come up to me, their issue is they don't feel like they're going to be heard. It's just like I feel like, many times I speak out because I'm a person on the record. So I just went on the record, so that when if anything goes bad, it's like, hey, we talked about this, there was nothing done. Do I feel like things going to be done with the master plan? No. Do I have confidence? No. But, I have to come and keep saying that, being an advocate, so it's on record, like, hey, eventually, this team is going to, address it. Eventually, whether that's 5 years, 10 years down the line, when we get another issue, like, maybe it's not a warehouse this time, maybe it's, a men's, sexual,
We got it. We're going down the wrong street.
Then it'll be addressed again, right?
But I think Mr. Brown, it really depends on what you're looking for out of a master plan. And you may talk to hundreds of people, and we may talk to thousands of people, right? And those hundreds of people may not outweigh those thousands of people. But it really depends on what you're looking for out of a master plan. And if that master plan suits that need, or if we paid $150,000 for a master plan, then would that one suit your need? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the way that it goes as far as the master plan, and does it play and does it work? Because it may not be, I say this all the time at home, this may not be a $160,000 problem. Like, you can go out and spend $160,000. Now, if the warehouse still plants there, and now we're $160 heavy, and then maybe the people from Deerwood come in here and it's like, we spent $160 because one group came and complained about you see what I'm saying? Like, how it plays? Like, it doesn't, so it'd be one thing if the $160,000 master plan suits that need and fixes that issue, but I think that our solicitor already said that whatever the master plan is, it is not going to fix the train that's down the road, right?
But at least those options. I mean, even the planner admitted, like, hey, there are several other things that should be addressed. And, what are those things? The community would love to know what are those things. How are we not lining up with what other communities are doing, moving progressively forward? We have in the line about that. I mean, according to the solicitor, his own mission, this process could be a back and forth. No, it seems like it's a closed door, and it's going to be handed to you. Whether this planner agrees that everything was addressed or not, he has an objective of these things need to be addressed.
So what I would say that this is if I were sitting in your seat, this is kind of what will make me feel safe. You heard Committeewoman Berkeley say, I need to see da-da-da-da-da. There's no way a master plan is going to come through here and it's not going to be something that's going to be addressed. That I can promise, right? So you have 5 different forms of representation up here. And that's why that government is that government as it is, right? And I think that you got to trust in that. Now, will you get what you want? I don't know what you want. That's what I keep saying. Like, what are you looking for out of the master plan? Which I think is something that can come through the email, right? But I think that that's a big part of it, right? Like, but you have representation throughout 5 people up here that understand what you want and what they're going to try to get. Now, I would like to see if that means, do we go back and spend another $100,000 to get it? I don't think any of the 5 people up here are going to say that. If they do, I'd like to hear it, right? But what does it mean? I think that we got to play that process out. This is a process that's had happened in what? Is it 10, 15 years, right? It's a process that's probably going to take a little bit of time, but we're going to have to try to get it right. And it's the planner's job to do so. The planner's job is not an elected official. The planner's job is somebody who's getting paid to do the master plan. So we might as well let him do that and then see what he comes back with. Fair? Well, it may not be fair to you, but fair.
I mean, there's a lot of discourse. You go back and read the meeting, it was pushed back to you guys saying that you gave the direction of what you're saying, the land development.
Recommendation.
And then they're saying, no, we make recommendations all the time, and the township, committee shoots it down. So it's like, who's giving the direction? And, Chris has said, well, I was told by the committee to do this. You didn't say that the development board, and I caught that clearly. It's like, so when the land development board are the people who are the expert on the representation of what, master plan or looking at, the progression of the community in this standpoint of zoning and variances.
So let me ask this, because I got to make sure I get him out of here. But let me ask this: what are you looking for out of a master plan?
I want to see what's wrong. What does the planner who's certified in this area think that needs to be addressed?
Do we think that what we're paying right now that he's not doing that? So is that what do we think that what he's doing now is not doing that? Like, I heard about it. I already know. I wasn't cutting you off and saying I know that walking in, but like, so what do you when I ask what are you looking for out of that's very broad, right? So what are you looking for out of a master plan? And this is not to put you on blast. It's just the recommendations, right? But that doesn't work. But you got to say what is it that you come and you ask about the master plan all the time, right? If I see you somewhere, you'll say, Sam, what's going on with the master plan, right? So what is it that you specifically, Terrence Brown, is looking to get out of the master plan, and maybe we can address that. And maybe it's not something that you can say now. Maybe it's something you want to email. But what is it, you explain to us what you're looking to get out of a master plan, and I'll make sure that we bring that up. Is that fair?
I want to see what does the plan look like? What areas that need to be addressed in West Hampton?
Broad.
I want to see that list of recommendations that, every person does in the country. Like, hey, this is what we recommend that you address. This is what you're asked us to do. This is what we're going to do. But these are some other issues that we found that need some addressing. I don't know all of West Hampton. So I'm trying to figure out, about some industrialization. All of these different.
So are we certain that he's not doing that?
I'm asking the question back to you. What did you ask him to do so I can know then what is it that he do?
Chris said that
He has other recommendations.
there's other areas of concern that are outside of the scope of the work that he's working on right now. That was not budgeted for, he proposed it, but it was, the funds weren't there, it was shot down as not needed right now.
Okay. So I can give you this commitment. I will call Chris tomorrow, and we'll deal with that. Fair? All right. We have a, oh, no, we gotta go.
From what I understand from a lot of the people, what they don't want to see is Sunnyside Farm turn into industrial area. All the other open farmlands all of a sudden rezoned for industrial. We don't want to keep taking the farmland that we have already and changing it to industrial.
I don't know that he's changing anything.
I'm just saying that, I didn't say him, I said this is what I get from talking to people that they don't want to see.
But you have to understand too, we're not redoing the whole master plan. So so with all those concerns that they recommend or they're addressing, that's coming because of, okay, we're looking at this part right now, and yeah, there's other issues that needs to be addressed, but we're looking at this part right now because we're not doing the whole master plan at this moment.
Yeah, but I mean, with Terrence is right, he's interested in knowing, is my takeaway, what those other areas were, just from an informational standpoint.
Because you think that one thing is what problems are this committed? Yeah, I think we need to know, what possible issues can come up, during, through his mind, his plan, so.
I'll call Chris.
Thank you.
You guys good? Enough?
What about my calendar?
Huh? That's not necessary. Listen, we did a lot today. I can't do the calendar.
Mayor Henley, I was in the calendar 3 days ago updating it, and everything was there for me. So I don't know what you're speaking about as far as not working, but all of the links were there for me the other day.
I'll
Is it on
double
the
check.
home page or on the front page?
I was on the, there's a calendar on the committee.
There's literally like 8 different calendars, and they don't all correspond with one another. If you're looking for meeting pages, just stay on the home page for now. We just haven't had a chance to update all the single calendars that are on the website. They are all individual, and it is quite a few fun. So stay with the home page. All the meetings will be right there.
Homepage calendar. Look at what we did. Look at that. I'm gonna respond 3:30 this morning when I get back.
I thought we had 2 meetings.
So we're going to go into executive session. Resolution number 8-9-2022, resolution authorizing the mayor, township committee, and staff to meet in a private session, authorizing the exclusion of the public from the portion of the meeting dealing with specific issues requiring non-public discussion, attorney-client privilege, real estate, property, and personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Berkeley?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Henley?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we staying here or going into the other room?
Probably on the other one.
Sandy, we staying here or going into the meeting room?
Where we going?